Good evening. It's Sunday night, May 2nd, and welcome to A Crone's Life, formerly called Healthcare Reality, and I'm Michael Weiss, the host. Now you might wonder, why is this guy qualified to host a show about Crohn's disease and chronic illness? Well, I think I'm pretty qualified. I've had Crohn's disease for 25 years. I'm 47 now. Uh, I've been hospitalized over 100 times, maybe 150 times. Let's see, I've had about 15 major surgeries, and I wrote a book. I think if you write a book, right, you could do whatever you want. So I'm just kidding, obviously. The name of my book is Confessions of a Professional Hospital Patient, and it's a real, like a first person, myself, funny account of what it's like to deal with Crohn's disease and chronic illness both in and out of the hospital. And I hope you purchase it. It could help you, it could help a family member. I mean, Crohn's disease and other chronic illnesses are very difficult to understand and cope with, even for people who love you very, very much. So the book can be purchased at Amazon, Barnes& and Noble, and also on my site, where there's a sample chapter on the emergency room, actually, at hospitalpatient.com. And I apologize for that alarm ringing. Okay. Today's show is inspired by an article I read in the New York Times on April 30th, written by, I'm sorry to look down, I want to make sure I get her name right, by a woman named Walencia Conrad for the New York Times on April 30th, 2010. She writes great articles on healthcare. This article is entitled Avoiding Surprise Bills with Homework and Negotiation. But really what the article is about is a practice called balanced billing. What is it? Well, health insurance is complicated. I think the national dialogue has made it less complicated for general people like us, so we understand. But when you have a chronic illness, there are so many costs that if you're not careful, it could cost one person $20,000 when they have surgery. It could cost another $120,000 if you don't do things right. So I'm going to try to give you a sort of a little bit of a primer on it so you can understand. And I'm not a numbers person, so bear with me. So I'm really just going to tackle this conceptually. With insurance, you have in-network and out-of-network, okay? In-network, insurance companies, it's a business. They ask doctors to sign a contract with them. The benefit to the doctors is, hey, they'll get more patients. And the benefit to the insurance company is they'll pay less because doctors are eager to get more patients. The problem is when you have a chronic illness, you typically don't see the normal doctor. Either you have a doctor who you trust and love for years, or your situation is so complicated that you need to see the top specialists, whether it's at the Cleveland Clinic or at Mount Sinai Hospital in Manhattan or Cedars-Sinai in Los Angeles. So you got to be very, very careful. And I have found that over the past couple of years, my gastroenterologists and surgeons and whatnot, they're very limiting in the types of insurances that they take because being a doctor these days is a very administratively straddled business, and I think a lot of these docs don't want to get into that business. So, number one, be careful, okay? Try to get a doctor who is in network. Now, simple doctor visit, that's very easy, but when you go for a colonoscopy, for example, not so easy because the doctor may be in network, but where he or she performs the colonoscopy, the facility may not be in network. And then further, the anesthesiologist who's going to sedate you during the procedure may or may not be in network. So you really need to ask these questions, and it's very difficult. These doctors, they're very nice and compassionate, but they have so much to deal with already. It's impossible for them to coordinate it perfectly so that they perform the colonoscopy on you at a facility and make sure that that one of 30 anesthesiologists on staff happens to have an agreement with your insurance company. You really need an advocate to step in. I mean, it's a business, and this is how insurance companies work. But as a patient, if you want to get the most bang for your buck, that's what you have to do. Now, when you go out of network, a lot of insurance policies, they let you do that. It's a business, and they say, okay, that's an option. But typically what they do is they say, look, let's say a colonoscopy costs a certain price. Well, we are going to deem it a usual and customary price for that procedure in the part of the country where you live. So let's say for a colonoscopy, they say it's $2,000. But you may live in New York, you may live in LA, and it's $3,000. And then out of that allotment, they will agree to pay usually 80%, it could be 75%, and then the patient is responsible for the remaining 25 or 20%. But the patient, sometimes that insurance company 75% or 80% doesn't kick in until the patient hits a deductible, which, in many cases could be $5,000, $7,500. So it's when my friends say, hey, I know you have a chronic illness, you've always had great jobs, and you have health insurance. Why don't you have a yacht? They don't ask it that way, but they do ask. And it's because of what is called balance billing, because these out-of-network doctors are entitled to get the fee that they told you it was going to cost. So if they say, hey, the colonoscopy's $4,000, you run it through your insurance company, and they say, well, we think it should be $2,500, and then out of that, we're only going to pay 80%, but you haven't, hit your deductible, and it's a mess. And insurance companies do the best they can. And again, there's so many things wrong with our system that it's so easy to criticize insurance companies. It's a business. They do what they have to do. But as a patient, I guess the point of this whole video podcast is that as a patient, you must be vigilant, okay? You must double check, triple check. Are they in network? Is the hospital in network? Now, there are exceptions, an emergency. Now, you may lose it at first, but appeal and say, I was on the ski slopes and I broke, I tore ligaments in my knee. I didn't exactly have time to get pre-authorization for an MRI. And obviously, in those cases, the insurance company works with you. But document everything that you get. Now, also, some people with some chronic illnesses, they can't get the care that their present doctors who are affiliated with their insurance company can provide. So they have to go elsewhere. Now, you'll win in the end, but it's a nightmare because you'll keep getting it rejected and rejected and rejected. But you must go to your insurance company first and say, hey, I need this procedure. Let them say no, and let them say, look, we don't have anyone here who can give it. Well, then you'll have to prove that you need it, and then you will eventually get paid. So I guess what I'm saying is you just don't trust insurance companies. When I say trust, I'm not saying they're dishonorable. What I'm saying is don't trust them to look out for you so that you have the most economical plan. I think we all tend to do that with cell phones. It's sort of like, well, come on, you know what my call plan is and my usage. Am I on the best plan? And frankly, I need to take a look at that too because I think it's a bunch of BS. But with health insurance companies, they just want to take your money. They provide a service, and they're not wrong. They are not wrong. They're taking a risk, particularly with chronically ill people, and obviously I appreciate that. I know that you do, but be vigilant. Get a patient advocate, but you really have to understand the system so that when your doctor sends you a bill, and it's a balance bill, and it's a doctor that you really care about, and you have a relationship that you don't want to ruin, it's tough to say, hey, I don't owe you money. My insurance company took care of this. I think the doctor would appreciate if you wouldn't put his or her staff through hell, and you understood what the situation was. I could go through numbers and prove this out, but that's just not the point of this podcast. I'm really just trying to show people how to live with a chronic illness and how to manage the bills and the life and the friends. So hopefully you got something out of this, and obviously the New York Times and this particular writer writes great pieces. So, and from time to time, it may inspire me to do a video chat. But I appreciate you hearing me out, and certainly send me emails at michaelweiss@hospitalpatient.com, or at Twitter. I'm at @hospitalpatient if there are particular issues that you want me to explore. And also, please check out my book, Confessions of a Professional Hospital Patient. Check out the reviews. There's a link to it on the site at hospitalpatient.com. It really is entertaining and funny, and it makes a topic that we know so well is not that entertaining and funny, but somehow I managed to I guess I was just honest, and I caught the embarrassing, the funny, the real. So anyways, have a nice evening, and I hope to hear from you, and please feel good. Thank you.